The marriage certificate sat between them on the scratched government desk, and Ava Sterling's hand trembled as she reached for the pen. 30 years old, Harvard-educated, heir to a crumbling empire, and here she was, about to marry a man in oil-stained work boots who smelled faintly of motor grease. Her father had promised her a powerful alliance. Instead, she got Noah Bennett, single dad, small-town mechanic, nobody. She signed anyway, watching her perfect life collapse with each stroke of ink. Then Noah's phone buzzed, then another, then 6 more. Across the city, stock tickers started moving. Someone powerful had just made a play. Ava looked at her new husband's calloused hands and felt the first cold touch of fear. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stick around until the end. Trust me, nothing in this story is what it seems. The fluorescent lights in the Office of Civil Records hummed like dying insects. Ava had imagined this moment differently, had imagined all of it differently. In her version, there would have been photographers, champagne, a dress that cost more than most people's cars. Her marriage was supposed to be a merger, yes, but a glamorous one. 2 powerful families joining forces, the kind of union that made the business section and the society pages simultaneously. Instead, she sat in a plastic chair that squeaked every time she shifted her weight, staring at a water stain on the ceiling that looked vaguely like South America. Miss Sterling? The clerk was a tired-looking woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a beaded chain. She said the name without inflection, the way you might say next customer at a deli counter. It's still Miss Sterling for another 5 minutes, Ava said. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. The clerk didn't react. The other party is here. Ava's stomach clenched. She'd been dreading and anticipating this moment in equal measure. 3 weeks ago, her father had sat her down in his study, the same study where he'd taught her to read stock reports when she was 7, and explained that the company was dying, not struggling, not facing challenges. Dying. The Beaumont deal fell through, he'd said, and for the first time in her life, Ava had seen her father look old. Actually old. We're leveraged too heavily. The creditors are circling. We have maybe 90 days before... He hadn't finished the sentence. He hadn't needed to. So we find another investor, Ava had said. The Singapore group, or there is another option. Her father had pulled out a folder. A marriage arrangement. Very old family, very private, extremely well connected. Ava had felt her world tilt. You're joking. I wish I was. She'd expected resistance to feel more dramatic. Instead, it had felt like something inside her just folded. Like origami in reverse. 3 generations of Sterling Industries, hundreds of employees, her mother's legacy, all of it rested on her shoulders. What was she supposed to say? No? So she'd said yes. And she'd spent 3 weeks imagining the man she'd meet. Someone from the Singapore group, maybe. Or one of the private equity princes from New York. Someone ruthless and brilliant and probably twice her age. Someone she could respect, even if she couldn't love. The door opened. Ava looked up. The man who walked in was younger than she expected. Maybe 32, 33. Dark hair that needed a cut. Broad shoulders under a jacket that had seen better days. Work boots that had definitely seen better days. He had the kind of face that was hard to read. Strong features, careful eyes. A mouth that looked like it smiled easily, but wasn't smiling now. Behind him, a shorter man in an expensive suit was talking rapidly into a phone. The contrast was almost comical. Noah Bennett, the man in work boots said, extending his hand to Ava. She stood automatically, her etiquette training kicking in even as her brain struggled to process what she was seeing. His hand was warm, calloused, completely unlike any hand that had ever touched hers at a charity gala or corporate dinner. Ava Sterling. I know who you are. He said it without malice, just stating a fact. The man in the suit finished his call and stepped forward. Richard Chen, representing Mr. Bennett's interests. Shall we proceed? Ava's father appeared in the doorway, looking relieved and anxious in equal measure. He nodded at Noah, a weird, almost deferential nod that made Ava's skin crawl. This is him? She said quietly, turning to her father. This is the... Let's just get through this, her father murmured. Please, Ava, trust me. Trust. That word had been doing a lot of heavy lifting lately. They sat down. The clerk produced documents. Richard Chen read through terms with professional efficiency while Ava tried to understand what was happening. The marriage contract was weirdly straightforward. A legal union, period. No consummation requirements, no elaborate prenuptial clauses, no sunset provisions. Just marriage. Mr. Bennett maintains a private residence outside the city, Richard was saying. Mrs. Bennett would be welcome to maintain her own residence, or she'll stay with me, Noah said. His voice was quiet but firm. That's part of this. Ava's head snapped toward him. Excuse me? Noah met her eyes. If we're doing this, we do it right. You live under my roof. That's the deal. The deal? Ava felt heat rising in her chest. I wasn't aware you were dictating terms. I'm not dictating. I'm stating what I need for this to work. And what I need doesn't matter? Does it? Noah's expression didn't change. You're here to save your company. I'm here to make that happen. Everything else is details. The casual brutality of it took her breath away. He wasn't wrong. That was the worst part. She was here to save Sterling Industries. Her wants, her needs, her entire future had already been sacrificed the moment her father opened that folder. But hearing it said out loud, in that matter-of-fact tone, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Fine, she said, biting off the word. I'll live in your house. Our house, Noah corrected gently. For however long this lasts. The clerk cleared her throat. If we could proceed with the signatures? Ava picked up the pen. Her hand was steadier than she expected. Years of board meetings and hostile negotiations had taught her how to hide what she was feeling. She signed Ava J. Sterling in the practice script she'd perfected at 15. Noah signed beside her. His signature was messier, more abbreviated, just N. Bennett in quick strokes. The moment his pen left the paper, phones started buzzing. Richard Chen pulled out his cell, glanced at the screen, and his eyebrows shot up. Ava's father checked his own phone and went pale. What? Ava demanded. Her father showed her the screen. It was a financial news feed, and the headline made her dizzy. Mystery Fund acquires 12% stake in Sterling Industries stock surges. 40% in minutes. What is this? Ava looked at her father, then at Richard Chen, then at Noah. What's happening? Noah stood up, buttoning his jacket. We should go. I have to pick up my daughter from school. Ava's brain stuttered. Your daughter? Sadie. She's 7. Didn't your father mention her? Ava turned to her father with murder in her eyes. I may have left out some details, her father said weakly. Some details? Ava's voice rose. You're telling me I just married a man with a child, and you didn't think that was worth mentioning? If I told you everything, you wouldn't have come. He wasn't wrong about that either. Ava wanted to scream. She wanted to flip the table. She wanted to rewind 3 weeks and tell her father to let the company burn. Instead, she picked up her purse. Where are you going? Her father asked. Apparently to pick up my stepdaughter from school. She said it with all the venom she could muster. Noah was already at the door. My truck's outside. Of course it was a truck. The vehicle was a Ford F-150 that had seen at least a decade of hard use. The passenger seat had a coffee stain on it. There was a child's car seat in the back, covered in stickers of cartoon characters Ava didn't recognize. She climbed in without comment, her Valentino skirt immediately picking up some kind of dust from the seat. Noah started the engine. Country music came through the speakers before he quickly switched it off. They drove in silence for 5 minutes. Finally, Ava couldn't take it anymore. What just happened back there? With the stock? Your company needed investment. Now it has it. From whom? Noah didn't answer. Those phones started ringing the second you signed that paper, Ava pressed. That's not a coincidence. No, Noah agreed. It's not. So explain it to me. He glanced at her, then back at the road. You really don't know who I am, do you? You're Noah Bennett. You have a daughter. You drive a truck that smells like motor oil. That's literally all I know. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. Your father didn't do his homework. Apparently not, so enlighten me. Noah was quiet for a long moment. I run a private investment fund, very private. The kind that doesn't appear in Forbes lists or attend Davos. Ava's mind raced. How private? The kind where my signature on a marriage certificate to an heiress of a struggling manufacturing company is enough to make institutional investors think something big is happening. Is something big happening? Yeah, Noah said. You just got married. The dry delivery almost made her laugh. Almost. So you're rich, Ava said. I'm comfortable. How comfortable? Noah pulled into the parking lot of an elementary school. Kids were streaming out of the building, backpacks bouncing, voices shrill with freedom. Comfortable enough that you won't have to work if you don't want to, he said, killing the engine. Comfortable enough that Sadie will never worry about college. Comfortable enough that Sterling Industries won't collapse. But not comfortable enough to skip the work boots and truck? Now he did smile. It transformed his face completely. I like my work boots. And this truck has 300,000 miles on it. Why would I get rid of it? Before Ava could answer, a small figure in a purple backpack came running toward them. Dad! Noah got out of the truck, and the girl launched herself at him with the unselfconscious joy of a child who absolutely trusts they'll be caught. He scooped her up easily, spinning her once before setting her down. Good day? He asked. We did fractions. I hate fractions. Fractions are important, kiddo. You sound like Mrs. Patterson. The girl finally noticed Ava, who had gotten out of the truck and was standing awkwardly by the passenger door. Who's that? Noah's expression shifted, something guarded moving across it. Sadie, this is Ava. She's going to be staying with us for a while. Sadie studied Ava with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. Are you Dad's girlfriend? No, Ava said. Yes, Noah said at the same time. They looked at each other. Kind of, Noah amended. It's complicated, Sadie. Adults always say things are complicated when they don't want to explain them, Sadie said wisely. Then to Ava. Do you like mac and cheese? Yes? Good. Dad makes the best mac and cheese. It's the only thing he can cook that doesn't come out weird. Hey, Noah protested. My lasagna is improving. You put raisins in it last time. That was an accident. Ava watched this exchange with a growing sense of unreality. 6 hours ago, she'd been in her penthouse apartment, preparing for what she thought would be a strategic marriage to a powerful stranger. Now she was in a school parking lot, listening to a single dad defend his lasagna to his 7-year-old daughter. Come on, Noah said, opening the back door for Sadie. Let's go home. Home. The word landed strange. The house was nothing like what Ava expected. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't even trying to be a mansion. It was a modest bungalow on a tree-lined street, the kind of place where neighbors actually knew each other's names. The paint was a little faded. The lawn needed mowing. Wind chimes hung from the porch, making soft music in the breeze. This is it, Noah said, pulling into the driveway. I know it's not what you're used to. Ava thought of her penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows and designer everything. She'd always thought it was elegant. Looking at this small, worn house with its green front door and slightly crooked mailbox, she suddenly wasn't sure what elegant meant anymore. Inside was just as unpretentious. Hardwood floors that creaked, furniture that looked comfortable rather than expensive. Sadie's drawings on the refrigerator, a bookshelf stuffed with paperbacks and repair manuals, photos on the walls, Noah and Sadie at various ages, smiling in various places. No photos of a mother. Ava didn't ask. Your room's upstairs, Noah said, gesturing toward a staircase. First door on the left, bathrooms across the hall. Make yourself at home. Where's your room? End of the hall. Sadie's is next to mine. So she'd have her own space. That was something. Ava climbed the stairs, her heels loud on the wood. The room he'd indicated was small but clean. A double bed with a plain blue comforter, a dresser, a window that looked out onto the street. No closet to speak of, just a small wardrobe that would hold maybe a quarter of what was in her penthouse. She sat on the bed. The springs squeaked. This was insane. All of it was insane. Downstairs, she could hear Sadie chattering at her father, something about a spelling test and a boy named Marcus who always picked his nose during silent reading. Ava pulled out her phone, 17 missed calls from her mother, 43 emails, 6 texts from her best friend Kira, each one more frantic than the last. She ignored all of it. Instead, she opened her browser and typed Noah Bennett Investment Fund. The search returned nothing useful, a few LinkedIn profiles that clearly weren't him, a realtor in Denver, a youth pastor in Ohio. She tried Noah Bennett Finance. Still nothing. Noah Bennett Billionaire. Zero relevant results. Whoever this man was, he'd scrubbed himself from the internet with professional thoroughness. Ava heard footsteps on the stairs. A soft knock. Yeah? Sadie's head appeared around the door frame. Dad says dinner's in 20 minutes. Also, do you want to see my rock collection? Despite everything, Ava felt a smile tug at her mouth. Sure. Sadie came in, dragging a shoebox that rattled with specimens. For the next 15 minutes, Ava learned more about sedimentary versus igneous formations than she'd ever thought she'd need to know. This one's my favorite, Sadie said, holding up a piece of quartz. Dad found it on a hike. See how it catches the light? It's beautiful. You can borrow it if you want, for good luck. Something in Ava's chest squeezed. Thank you. Sadie grinned, then hesitated. Are you going to stay? I don't know, Ava said honestly. Maybe for a little while. That's what Dad said about the last lady. Then she left. Ava blinked. There was a last lady? She was nice, but she didn't like that Dad worked so much. Do you mind that? I don't know your dad well enough to mind anything yet. Sadie considered this. That's fair. Mrs. Patterson says we should never judge people until we know their whole story. Mrs. Patterson sounds smart. She is. She also has a really cool turtle named Fred. Dinner! Noah's voice floated up from downstairs. Sadie grabbed Ava's hand, completely natural, like they'd known each other for years instead of minutes, and tugged her toward the stairs. Dinner was indeed mac and cheese, the kind from a box with hot dogs cut into it. Ava hadn't eaten anything from a box in probably a decade. It was delicious. After Sadie went to bed, after an elaborate bedtime routine involving 3 different stuffed animals and a negotiation about whether 7 pages or 8 pages counted as a chapter, Noah and Ava sat in the living room. He'd changed out of the work jacket into a plain gray t-shirt. Ava was still in her skirt and blouse, feeling overdressed and out of place. So, Noah said. Questions? About 1,000. Hit me with the top 5. Ava set down the tea he'd made her. Who are you really? That's a big question. You said you run an investment fund. What kind? Noah leaned back, looking tired. The kind that finds undervalued companies and helps them restructure. Sometimes we acquire. Sometimes we partner. Sometimes we just provide capital and strategic advice. And you do this from a bungalow in the suburbs? I do this from wherever I want. That's the benefit of being very, very good at it. Why the act? Ava gestured at the house. The truck, the work boots, the whole blue-collar thing. If you're as rich as you're implying, but it's not an act, Noah interrupted. I am a mechanic. I have a shop about 3 miles from here. I work there 4 days a week. Why? Because I like fixing things. Because it keeps me grounded. Because Sadie needs to see that value isn't just in a bank account. Ava studied him. You're serious? Completely. So you're a billionaire who fixes cars for fun. I'm a mechanic who happens to be good with money, Noah corrected. There's a difference. Is there? To me, yeah. Ava shook her head. This is the weirdest marriage I've ever heard of, and it's only 6 hours old. Noah smiled faintly. Question 2? Why did you agree to this? You clearly don't need my family's money or connections, so why marry me? The smile faded. Noah was quiet for a long moment. Your father's company is about to go under, he said finally. When it does, 400 people lose their jobs. 400 families lose their income. In this economy, in this region, a lot of them won't find equivalent work. So this is charity? This is preventing unnecessary suffering. By marrying me. By stabilizing Sterling Industries long enough for it to restructure. The marriage is just the mechanism. Ava felt something cold settle in her stomach. So I'm the mechanism. We both are, Noah said quietly. I'm not pretending this is romantic, Ava. Your father came to me with a problem. I offered a solution. You agreed to be part of that solution. It's business. Business, Ava repeated. The word tasted bitter. Unless you want it to be something else. She looked at him sharply. What? I'm just saying, we're stuck with each other for at least a year, maybe longer, depending on how the restructuring goes. We can make this miserable, or we can try to make it work. Define work. Noah shrugged. Polite, cordial, maybe even friendly, if we're lucky. Sadie needs stability. I need peace. You need your company saved. We all get what we need. Nobody has to pretend to be in love. And in a year or two, we quietly divorce and move on with our lives. It sounded so reasonable, so clean, so absolutely depressing. Question 3, Noah prompted, but Ava had lost her appetite for answers. I'm tired. I think I'll just go to bed. Okay. Noah stood when she did. Ava? Yeah? For what it's worth, I know this isn't what you wanted. I'm sorry it has to be this way. The apology surprised her. She nodded stiffly. Good night, Noah. Good night. Upstairs, Ava changed into the pajamas she'd packed in her overnight bag. Silk, expensive, completely wrong for this house. She lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at an unfamiliar ceiling, and tried to process the day. She'd gotten married to a stranger who had a kid and who might or might not be a secret billionaire. Her phone buzzed. Kira. Are you alive? Your dad won't tell me anything and the internet is saying you got married? Call me immediately. Ava stared at the message. She should call. She should explain. She should do something other than lie here, feeling like her life had been replaced with someone else's. Instead, she turned off the phone. Through the wall, she could hear Noah moving around in his room, the house settling. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. This was her life now, at least for a year. Ava closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep was a long time coming. The next morning, she woke to the smell of coffee. It took her a moment to remember where she was. The room was full of soft light, and for a second she thought she was in a hotel somewhere. Then memory crashed back. Married. Bungalow. Stepdaughter. She dragged herself out of bed and followed the coffee smell downstairs. Noah was in the kitchen, already dressed for work in jeans and a flannel shirt. Sadie was at the table, eating cereal and swinging her legs. Morning, Noah said. Coffee's fresh. Thanks. Ava's voice was rough with sleep. Do you want breakfast? I can make eggs. They're one of the 4 things I can successfully cook. What are the other 3? Mac and cheese, scrambled eggs, and toast. I'm a man of limited but consistent skills. Despite herself, Ava smiled. Toast sounds good. Noah set about making it while Sadie chattered about her plans for the day. Something involving a friend named Emma and a very important game of 4 square at recess. What are your plans? Noah asked Ava, sliding a plate of toast across to her. I should probably go back to my apartment, get some clothes, check in at the office. The office can wait, Noah said. Your dad's handling the immediate crisis. Take a day. I don't really do days off. Start. He said it mildly, but there was something firm underneath. You just had a major life change. Give yourself a minute to adjust. Ava wanted to argue, but the truth was she had no idea what she was supposed to do now. Her whole life had been Sterling Industries, the company, the legacy, the endless pressure to be perfect. Now that was paused, saved. She didn't even know. Okay, she heard herself say. A day. Noah nodded, satisfied. He dropped Sadie at school. Ava went with them, still feeling like a tourist in someone else's life. And then they drove in silence back to the house. I have to go to the shop, Noah said as they pulled into the driveway. You're welcome to come with, or stay here, or go wherever you want. You're not a prisoner. What's at the shop? A '67 Mustang that needs a new transmission, a Subaru with a mysterious rattle. The usual. Ava made a decision that surprised herself. Can I come? Noah looked equally surprised. Yeah, of course. The shop was exactly what Ava expected. A large garage with 3 bays, tools hanging on every wall, the smell of oil and metal and work. 2 other mechanics were already there, a younger guy with extensive tattoos and an older man with an impressive beard. Boss man, the tattooed guy said. Didn't expect you today. Couldn't stay away. Marcus, Dave, this is Ava. Both men looked at her, really looked, taking in the designer jeans and cashmere sweater she'd thrown on that morning, and then looked at Noah with expressions that clearly said, what the hell? Ava's staying with me for a while, Noah said, offering no other explanation. To their credit, neither man pushed. Marcus just said, cool, and Dave nodded and went back to whatever he'd been doing under the hood of a Honda. Noah showed Ava around the shop, explaining what each tool did with the patience of someone who genuinely loved his work. She found herself actually interested. "Hand me that socket wrench," Noah asked at one point, elbow deep in the Mustang's engine. Ava looked at the array of tools. "Which one is that?" "The one that looks like a— Here, I'll show you." He extracted himself from the car, wiped his hands on a rag, and gave her a quick lesson in basic automotive tools. It was possibly the most normal moment Ava had experienced in months. They worked, well, Noah worked, and Ava mostly watched and occasionally handed him things. Until lunch. Marcus ordered pizza. They ate in the small office, talking about nothing important. Sports, weather, a funny video someone had seen. Nobody mentioned that Ava was completely out of place. Nobody asked questions she didn't want to answer. It was, Ava realized with some surprise, kind of nice. On the drive back to pick up Sadie, Noah glanced at her. "You okay?" "Yeah," Ava said. "Actually, yeah. That was good." "Good different or good good?" She considered. "Good good, I think." Noah smiled. Progress. That night, after another dinner, grilled cheese, which Noah claimed was technically different from toast and therefore counted as a fifth skill. After Sadie's homework and bath time and the increasingly elaborate bedtime routine, Ava found herself on the porch. The wind chimes were moving in the breeze, making their gentle noise. The street was quiet, lights on in houses up and down the block. Noah came out carrying 2 beers. "Thought you might want one," he said, offering her a bottle. Ava took it. They sat in companionable silence. "This is weird," Ava said eventually. "Yeah. I should hate this. I should hate all of it." "Do you?" She thought about it. The small house, the mundane routines, Sadie's endless questions, and Noah's terrible cooking and the smell of motor oil that somehow followed him everywhere. "No," she admitted. "I don't think I do." "Good," Noah said, "because you're stuck here for a while. At least a year. At least." They drank their beers. Somewhere down the street, a car door slammed. A dog barked. Normal sounds. Regular life. Ava had spent 30 years in penthouses and boardrooms surrounded by luxury and pressure and the constant weight of expectation. This ordinary street, this modest house, this strange forced marriage, it shouldn't feel like relief. But somehow, it did. "Noah? Yeah? Thank you for not making this harder than it has to be." He looked at her, and in the porch light, his expression was impossible to read. "Same to you," he said finally. They finished their beers. Ava went to bed in her small room, in the squeaky bed, in a house that wasn't hers. And for the first time in 3 weeks, she slept through the night. The routine established itself faster than Ava expected. Mornings, coffee with Noah, breakfast chaos with Sadie, the school run. Days, sometimes the office, where her father looked simultaneously relieved and guilty every time he saw her. Sometimes the shop, where she was learning the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead. Sometimes just the house, which needed more work than she'd initially noticed. Evenings, dinner, homework help, Sadie's increasingly creative attempts to delay bedtime. Nights, the porch, sometimes with Noah, sometimes alone, always with the wind chimes and the quiet street and the strange peace of it all. A week passed, then 2. Ava's mother finally cornered her at the Sterling Industries office. "You got married," Linda Sterling said. Not a question, an accusation. "I did what Dad asked me to do." "To a mechanic. To someone who saved the company. We don't even know who this man is." Ava thought about Noah teaching Sadie long division at the kitchen table. Noah with grease under his nails and patience in his voice. Noah who said goodnight to his daughter like every night might be the last one, like every moment was precious. "I know who he is," Ava said quietly. Her mother's expression shifted, something like concern breaking through the anger. "Are you happy, Ava?" The question caught her off guard. Was she happy? She was living in a house a tenth the size of her apartment, eating food from boxes, sharing a bathroom with a 7-year-old who left toothpaste in the sink, married to a man who was still mostly a stranger. "I don't know," Ava said honestly. But I'm not miserable. That's something. Her mother didn't look convinced, but she let it go. That night, Ava came home. When had she started thinking of it as home? To find Noah in the garage working on something that involved a lot of cursing and what sounded like a hammer. Need help? She called. Unless you know how to remove a seized bolt, probably not. I could Google it. Noah laughed. A real laugh, not the careful ones he usually offered. That's very sweet. Also useless. Ava leaned against the doorframe, watching him work. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Why'd you really agree to marry me? Noah didn't stop working. I told you, the jobs are part of it, Ava interrupted. But there's something else, something you're not saying. He was quiet for long enough that she thought he might not answer. Then, I was married before. Sadie's mom. Ava's breath caught. What happened? Cancer. Sadie was 3. Noah. It's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's been 4 years. We're managing. He finally stopped working, straightening up and meeting her eyes. But when your father came to me, when he explained the situation, all I could think about was those 400 families, those 400 kids who might end up like Sadie, losing a parent because of something completely out of their control. So you're trying to save them. I'm trying to make sure they don't have to go through what we went through. If that means marrying someone I barely know for a year, that's a small price. Ava felt something crack open in her chest. You're a better person than I am. I doubt that. I'm only here because my father guilted me into it. You're here because you actually give a damn about people. Noah shook his head. You're here because you love your family and their legacy. That's not nothing, Ava. That's actually kind of everything. They looked at each other across the dim garage, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or the beginning of it. This is still weird, Ava said. Yeah, Noah agreed. But maybe weird isn't so bad. Upstairs, Sadie called out that she needed help with something. Noah wiped his hands on a rag. Duty calls. Ava followed him inside into the warm light of the house, into the organized chaos of life with a 7-year-old, into this strange new existence that was starting to feel less like a prison sentence and more like something else. She still didn't know what would happen when the year was up, but for the first time she wasn't counting down the days. 3 weeks into the marriage, Ava's designer heels started falling apart. Not the expensive ones she wore to board meetings. Those were safely stored in her apartment downtown. These were the casual pair she'd worn to the grocery store with Noah, the ones that cost more than his monthly truck payment. The left heel had developed a wobble, and the leather was scuffed beyond what any amount of polish could fix. She tossed them in the trash that morning, figuring she'd order new ones online. When she came home from Sterling Industries that evening, a brutal day of restructuring meetings that had left her head pounding, the shoes were sitting on the kitchen table. Fixed. The heel was steady, the leather conditioned and buffed to something close to its original shine. Noah did that, Sadie said, looking up from her math homework. He was working on them in the garage for like an hour. Ava picked up one of the shoes, turning it over in her hands. The repair wasn't perfect. You could see where he'd reattached the heel, see the careful stitching he'd done to reinforce the worn leather. But it was solid, functional, done with the same care he brought to fixing a transmission or teaching his daughter fractions. Where is he? Shop, said he'd be back by dinner. Ava set the shoe down carefully. Something in her throat felt tight. That night, after Sadie was in bed, she found Noah on the porch with his usual beer. Thank you, she said. For the shoes? He shrugged. They were fixable. Seemed wasteful to throw them out. Most people would have just let me buy new ones. I'm not most people. No, Ava thought, he really wasn't. She sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The wind chimes sang their quiet song. Down the street, Mr. Palmer was walking his ancient golden retriever. Can I ask you something? Ava said. You're full of questions lately. This is a new situation. I'm trying to understand it. Noah smiled faintly. Ask. Why do you live like this? If you have the kind of money you're implying, why the bungalow? Why fix my shoes instead of just buying me new ones? Why any of it? Noah took a long pull from his beer. You ever hear the story about the fisherman and the businessman? No. Businessman sees a fisherman sleeping on a beach in the middle of the day. asks him why he's not out fishing, making money. Fisherman says he already caught enough fish for the day. Businessman says he should catch more, sell them, buy a bigger boat, hire a crew, expand his operation, eventually sell the whole business and retire rich. Fisherman asks what he'd do then. Businessman says, then you can relax and enjoy life, sleep on the beach whenever you want. Fisherman looks at him and says, but I'm already doing that. Ava was quiet, processing. I had the big house, Noah continued. The penthouse, the cars, the whole show. When my wife got sick, none of it mattered. None of it made her better. And after she died, Sadie and I were rattling around in all that space, surrounded by expensive things that just reminded me of what we'd lost. He gestured at the street, the modest houses with their glowing windows. This is real. This is enough. Why would I need more? Because you can have it. That's not a reason. That's just greed dressed up as ambition. Ava thought about her penthouse, the view she never really looked at, the chef's kitchen she never cooked in, the home theater where she watched Netflix alone on a 90-inch screen. I think I've been doing it wrong, she said quietly. Doing what wrong? Life. All of it. Noah's hand found hers in the dark. Just for a moment, a brief squeeze that might have been comfort or solidarity, or just acknowledgement that she'd said something true. You're doing fine, he said. You're here, aren't you? The next morning, Ava woke up to raised voices downstairs. Not angry voices, excited ones. She pulled on a robe and headed down to find Sadie practically bouncing in her chair while Noah made pancakes. Tell her, Sadie demanded. Tell me what? Noah flipped a pancake with more force than necessary. There's a school thing, a father-daughter dance next Friday. Sadie wants to go. So go. It's also open to other family members. Noah wasn't looking at her. Stepmothers, aunts, whatever. Ava's stomach did something complicated. You want me to come? I want you to come, Sadie said. Emma's mom is coming with her because her dad works nights, and it's supposed to be really fun, and we get to dress up, and there's going to be a DJ and everything. Sadie, maybe Ava has plans, Noah started. I don't have plans, Ava said. The words came out before she'd really thought them through. I mean, I'd have to check my calendar, but please, please, please. Sadie's eyes were huge. You could wear a fancy dress. You have fancy dresses, right? I have a few. See, Dad? She has fancy dresses. Noah looked at Ava over his daughter's head, and his expression was complicated. Grateful, maybe. Or worried. Or both. You don't have to, he said quietly. But Ava found she wanted to, which was strange. A month ago, the idea of attending an elementary school dance would have seemed like torture. Now, looking at Sadie's hopeful face, she couldn't think of a good reason to say no. What time is it? She asked. Sadie squealed. The week leading up to the dance was strange in ways Ava hadn't anticipated. She found herself thinking about it at odd moments, during a tedious conference call about supply chain logistics, during a tense negotiation with creditors, during the quiet moments before sleep. She also found herself noticing things about Noah she'd somehow missed before. Like how he called Sadie's teacher every Tuesday to check in on her progress, even though Sadie was doing fine. Like how he kept a photo of his late wife in his wallet, but never talked about her unless Sadie brought her up first. Like how he'd get up at 5 in the morning to prep the shop for the day, come home to make Sadie breakfast, drop her at school, work a full day, pick her up, help with homework, make dinner, do bedtime, and then spend 2 hours on his laptop doing something he never explained. And he did it all without complaining once. On Wednesday, Ava walked into the kitchen to find Noah on the phone. His voice was different, sharper, more authoritative. The mechanic drawl was gone, replaced by something that sounded like it belonged in a boardroom. I don't care what the projections say, Marcus. The Asian markets are going to correct in the next quarter. Move 30% of the Henderson Fund into bonds. Yes, I'm sure, because I've been doing this for 15 years and I can read a pattern when I see one. He noticed Ava and his whole demeanor shifted, softening back into the man she knew. Just do it, he said into the phone. I'll check the numbers tonight. He hung up. Marcus? Ava said. The guy from the shop? Different Marcus, my fund manager. You have a fund manager. I have several. Ava poured herself coffee, trying to reconcile the two versions of Noah. The one who fixed her shoes and burned grilled cheese, and the one who casually moved millions of dollars around while standing in his kitchen in a faded t-shirt. "How much are you actually worth?" she asked. Noah started scrambling eggs. "Does it matter?" "I'm just trying to understand who I married." "You married a single dad who fixes cars and makes bad lasagna. The money's just background noise. Background noise that saved my family's company. Your family's company is being saved by smart restructuring and some strategic investments. I just facilitated it." Ava sat down at the table. "You're being deliberately obtuse." "I'm being honest." Noah slid eggs onto a plate and set it in front of her. "I learned a long time ago that the money doesn't define me. It's a tool, sometimes useful, mostly irrelevant to the things that actually matter." "Like what?" "Like whether Sadie feels loved, whether my work means something, whether I can sleep at night knowing I did right by people who counted on me." He met her eyes. "Whether my wife feels trapped, or whether she might, eventually, feel at home." The word wife still landed strange, but home landed stranger. Because Ava was starting to feel it. The comfort of routine. The way Sadie would flop on the couch beside her and narrate her entire day in breathless detail. The way Noah always made sure there was coffee ready when she woke up. The way this small, imperfect house was starting to feel more real than anywhere she'd ever lived. "I'm getting there," she admitted. Noah's smile was small but genuine. "Good." Friday arrived faster than Ava expected. She spent an embarrassing amount of time picking a dress. Not too formal. It was an elementary school gym, not the Met Gala, but nice enough to make Sadie proud. She settled on a navy blue dress that was elegant without being showy. When she came downstairs, Sadie gasped. "You look like a princess." "You look pretty amazing yourself," Ava said, and meant it. Sadie was in a purple dress with sparkles, her hair in careful braids courtesy of Noah, who apparently had more skills than Ava had given him credit for. Noah was in slacks and a button-down, and Ava had to admit he cleaned up well. Really well. "Ready?" he asked. The school gym had been transformed with streamers and balloons and a disco ball that looked like it had seen better decades. The DJ was set up in one corner, playing a mix of current pop and dad rock. Fathers and daughters filled the dance floor, some dancing enthusiastically, some swaying awkwardly, all of them clearly happy to be there. Sadie grabbed Ava's hand. "Come on, this is my favorite song." Ava let herself be dragged onto the dance floor. She hadn't danced in years, real dancing, just for fun dancing. At charity galas, she did the appropriate waltzes with appropriate partners. This was different. This was Sadie, twirling and giggling and not caring at all about technique or grace. Noah joined them, and he was possibly the worst dancer Ava had ever seen. He moved like someone who'd learned rhythm from a manual. Sadie thought it was hilarious. "Dad, you're so bad at this." "I'm experiencing the music in my own way," Noah said with dignity, executing what might have been a disco move circa 1978. Ava laughed, and for a moment forgot about everything else. The company, the arrangement, the weird limbo of their marriage. There was just the music and the terrible lighting and Sadie's joy and Noah's terrible dancing. Then the music slowed. The DJ announced it was time for the special dance, one slow song for fathers and daughters. Or in some cases, fathers and daughters, and the other important adults in their lives. Sadie looked between Noah and Ava with sudden uncertainty. "You dance with your dad," Ava said gently. "I'll wait here." "But you could both," Sadie started. "It's okay, kiddo," Noah said. "This one's just us." Ava stepped off the dance floor and watched Noah scoop Sadie up, her feet on his feet, swaying to some overly sentimental song about little girls growing up. Sadie was beaming. Noah was smiling, but there was something in his expression that made Ava's chest ache. He was thinking about his wife, about the woman who should have been here for this. Ava found herself blinking back tears, which was ridiculous. She barely knew these people. This wasn't her family. This was a temporary arrangement that would end in 10 or 11 months, and then everyone would go back to their real lives. Except it didn't feel temporary anymore. After the dance, they got ice cream. A tradition, Sadie explained, that her mom had started. Every special occasion ended with ice cream. "Mom always got mint chip," Sadie said, attacking her strawberry cone. "Dad says it tastes like toothpaste, but she loved it." "Your mom had good taste," Ava said. Did you know her? Sadie asked. No, sweetheart. I didn't. She would have liked you, Sadie said with the casual certainty of a 7-year-old. You're smart like she was. And you're nice, even though you try to act like you're not. Noah nearly choked on his coffee. I'm nice, Ava protested. You are, Sadie agreed. But when you first moved in, you did that thing where your face gets all stiff when you're trying not to show feelings. Mom used to say Dad does that too. I do not, Noah said. You totally do, especially when you're on the phone with Grandma Sterling. Now it was Ava's turn to nearly choke. You call my mother Grandma Sterling? What else would I call her? Sadie looked genuinely confused. Ava didn't have an answer for that. Her mother had visited exactly once since the wedding, stayed for 20 painful minutes, and left looking like she'd survived a natural disaster. The idea of her as Grandma Sterling was surreal, but also kind of perfect. That night, after Sadie was asleep, Ava found Noah in his home office, a small room off the kitchen that she usually avoided. He was at his computer, spreadsheets open, looking more like a hedge fund manager than a mechanic. Can I come in? He looked up, surprised. Yeah, of course. Ava sat in the worn armchair in the corner. What are you working on? The Henderson Fund, trying to rebalance some positions before the market opens Monday. The Henderson Fund that you casually moved 30% of into bonds? That's the one. Ava watched him work for a moment. Thank you for tonight, for letting me be part of it. You didn't have to come, but I'm glad you did. Sadie had a great time. What about you? Noah stopped typing. What about me? Did you have a good time? He considered the question. Yeah, I did. It was nice having you there. Made it feel more like... He trailed off. Like what? Like a family, Noah finished quietly. Not just me and Sadie against the world. Like maybe we're building something that could be real. Ava's heart was doing complicated things in her chest. Noah, I know what this is, he interrupted. I know it's temporary, but that doesn't mean we can't make it good while it lasts. And what happens when it's over? Noah met her eyes. I guess we'll figure that out when we get there. The next week brought a problem Ava hadn't anticipated. Her best friend Kira showed up unannounced. Ava opened the door to find Kira on the porch, designer luggage at her feet, looking like she'd walked off a runway and directly into suburban purgatory. What the hell, Ava? Hi, Kira. Want to come in? Do I want to? Yes, I want to come in. You got married to a stranger and moved to the suburbs and stopped answering my calls. I thought you'd been kidnapped. Ava let her in. Kira's eyes scanned the modest living room with barely concealed horror. This is where you're living? It's not that bad. Ava, your closet was bigger than this entire room. Kira, and who is this mystery husband? Where is he? I need to see the man who convinced Ava Sterling to give up her penthouse for... this. As if summoned, Noah appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. He took in Kira with a single glance and seemed to understand exactly what he was dealing with. You must be Kira, he said. Ava's mentioned you. Kira looked him up and down. You're the mechanic. I am. You married Ava. I did. Why? Kira, Ava said sharply. But Noah just smiled, because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. You want coffee? I just made a fresh pot. Kira seemed thrown by his calm. Sure. Coffee. They sat in the kitchen, Kira perched on a chair like she was afraid it might contaminate her Prada pants. Noah made small talk with the ease of someone who couldn't care less what she thought of him. Ava watched the dynamic with a kind of horrified fascination. So, Kira said finally, what's your angle? My angle? Nobody marries an heiress out of the goodness of their heart. What do you get out of this? Kira, that's enough, Ava said. No, it's fine, Noah said. It's a fair question. He looked at Kira directly. I get to help save 400 jobs. I get a year with someone interesting sharing my house. I get to see my daughter happy. That enough of an angle for you? Kira blinked. You're serious? Completely. But you're not in love with her. We barely know each other. Then why? Because love isn't the only reason to commit to something, Noah said simply. Sometimes respect and shared goals and a mutual desire to do right by other people is enough. Kira looked at Ava. And you're okay with this? Ava thought about the fixed shoes, the morning coffee, the way Noah had looked at her during the father-daughter dance, like maybe she belonged there after all. Yeah, she said, I am. Kira stayed for dinner, spaghetti, which Noah managed not to ruin, and met Sadie, who immediately tried to show her the rock collection. By the time Kira left, she seemed less hostile and more confused. Call me, she said to Ava at the door. Actually, call me, not just text. I need to understand what's happening here. I will. Ava? Kira's voice was softer. He seems decent. Weird, but decent. He is. And you seem, I don't know, different, less stressed maybe. Ava hadn't noticed, but now that Kira mentioned it, she realized it was true. The constant tension she'd carried for years, the need to be perfect, to prove herself, to never show weakness. It had eased. Not disappeared, but eased. Maybe I am, she said. After Kira left, Ava found Noah cleaning up the kitchen. Sorry about her, Ava said. She's protective. Good. You should have people who look out for you. She's not wrong to be suspicious. This whole thing is weird. Noah dried a plate. Ava, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy here? The question stopped her. Was she happy? She'd been focused on getting through it, on surviving the arrangement, on not thinking too hard about what any of it meant. I don't know if happy is the right word, she said slowly, but I'm not unhappy, and that's more than I expected. That's something, Noah said. That night, lying in her room, Ava heard her phone buzz. A text from her father. Need you in the office tomorrow. Restructuring committee meeting. The real world. Intruding on the bubble she'd been living in. The meeting the next day was brutal. Hours of financial projections and layoff discussions and tough decisions about which divisions to cut. Ava fought for every job she could save, but the math was unforgiving. By the time she got home, she was exhausted and on the edge of tears. Noah took one look at her and said, Bad day? The worst. He didn't ask questions, just made her tea, the fancy kind he'd started keeping in the house after he noticed she preferred it to coffee in the evenings, and sat with her on the couch. You want to talk about it? We had to let 70 people go. 70 people with families and mortgages and kids in college, and I had to sit there and approve it. I'm sorry. It's not enough. Being sorry doesn't give them their jobs back. No, Noah agreed. But you saved the other 330. That's not nothing. It feels like nothing. Noah was quiet for a moment. After my wife died, I had to make a choice. I could keep running my fund, keep making money, keep playing the game, or I could step back and actually be present for Sadie. I chose Sadie. And you know what? Some people told me I was wasting my potential, that I should hire nannies, keep working, maximize my impact. What did you say? I said impact doesn't mean anything if you're not there for the people who need you most. You did the hard thing today, Ava. You made the choice that saves the most people. That's leadership. It's supposed to hurt. Ava felt tears spilling over. She hadn't cried in front of anyone in years. Noah didn't make a big deal of it, just handed her a box of tissues and stayed beside her while she fell apart and pulled herself back together. Thank you, she said eventually. For what? For not trying to fix it, for just being here. That's what partners do, Noah said. Then realizing what he'd said, he added quickly, I mean, that's what people do, for each other, when they… I know what you meant, Ava said softly. Their eyes met, and something passed between them that hadn't been there before, something that felt dangerous and inevitable and absolutely terrifying. Ava looked away first. The weeks continued. Spring turned towards summer. The routines deepened. Sadie finished second grade. Sterling Industries stabilized, and Ava found herself settling into a life she'd never imagined wanting. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Ava was at the shop helping Marcus organize the tool inventory, a task she'd somehow gotten roped into, when Noah's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his whole face changed. I need to take this, he said, walking outside. Through the window, Ava watched him pace, his free hand running through his hair in what she'd learned was his tell for stress. The call lasted maybe 3 minutes. When he came back inside, he looked shaken. Everything okay? Ava asked. Fine, just business. But that night she heard him on the phone again. His office door was closed, but the walls were thin. I don't care what the board thinks. We're not selling to Meridian. Find another buyer. Because I know what they'll do to the company. They'll strip it and flip it, and 1,000 people will lose their jobs. Then we wait. I said we wait. The next morning, Noah was distracted. He burned the eggs, forgot to pack Sadie's lunch, didn't say 3 words on the drive to school. What's wrong? Ava finally asked. Nothing. Noah. He pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. For a long moment, he just sat there. One of my portfolio companies is in trouble, he said, finally. Hostile takeover attempt. If it goes through, it's going to be bad. How bad? Hundreds of jobs gone, maybe thousands. Can you stop it? I'm trying, but I can't do it alone. He looked at her. And I can't explain why I care so much without explaining things I'm not ready to explain. Ava's mind was racing. This is about more than money, isn't it? It's always about more than money. She thought about the careful way he'd scrubbed himself from the internet, the way he lived small despite having vast resources, the way he'd agreed to marry her to save 400 jobs. Who are you really, Noah? He gave her a tired smile. I'm exactly who I've always said I am. I'm just also some other things I haven't mentioned yet. That's not an answer. I know. He got out of the truck. But it's all I've got right now. Ava watched him walk into the house, and for the first time since their wedding, she felt the ground shift beneath her. Whatever this arrangement was, whatever they'd been building, it was built on foundations she didn't fully understand, and she was starting to think those foundations ran a lot deeper than either of them had admitted. The crisis with Noah's portfolio company came to a head 3 days later, though Ava didn't know it until she walked into Sterling Industries and found her father in a panic. We need to talk, he said, pulling her into his office and closing the door. Privately. What's wrong? Sterling just received an offer, a buyout offer. Anonymous fund, routed through about 6 shell companies, but the terms are... He shook his head. They're incredible, Ava. 20% above market value. Full employment guarantees for 2 years. Retention bonuses for key staff. Ava's stomach dropped. Who's the buyer? That's the thing. I can't trace it. My lawyer spent all night trying to follow the paper trail, and it just disappears into offshore accounts and holding companies. He looked at her. But the offer came in exactly 12 hours after Sterling stock took a hit from the restructuring announcement. Someone was watching. Someone who moved the second we looked vulnerable. Dad, it's him, isn't it? Your husband. Ava sat down heavily. I don't know. You don't know or you don't want to know? Both, maybe. She rubbed her temples. He's been acting strange all week, taking calls at odd hours. Mentioned something about a hostile takeover he was trying to stop. Her father leaned against his desk. Ava, who did I marry you to? A mechanic with a 7-year-old daughter who makes terrible lasagna. And apparently someone with enough money to casually rescue failing companies. Not just money. Her father pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward her. I had our people dig deeper. They found a pattern. Over the last 5 years, 12 companies on the verge of collapse were saved by anonymous investments. 12 companies that together employ over 15,000 people. Every single one of those investments can be traced, if you know where to look, back to a network of funds that all connect to one name. Noah Bennett. Not quite. Her father clicked to another screen. Noah Bennett, the mechanic, didn't exist before 7 years ago. But before that, there was a Noah Castellano, youngest VP in the history of Whitmore Capital, built a fund that returned 40% year over year, was being called the next Warren Buffett before he was 30. The name meant nothing to Ava, but the numbers did. What happened to him? He disappeared. Walked away from a $3 billion fund the same year his wife died. There were rumors, some scandal with his partners, accusations of insider trading that were never proven. He vanished, and the financial world moved on. Her father met her eyes. But the investment pattern didn't stop. It just went underground. Ava felt like the room was tilting. So he changed his name, legally. Noah Castellano became Noah Bennett. He bought that house, opened the garage, and apparently kept running one of the most successful private equity operations in the country from a bungalow in the suburbs. Why would he do that? That, her father said, is what I'm hoping you can find out. Ava drove home in a daze. Every conversation with Noah replayed in her head with new context. the careful way he talked about money. The phone calls with Marcus, the fund manager. The fact that he'd understood complex financial terms better than most of the MBAs on Sterling's board. She'd thought he was smart, thoughtful, good with numbers. She hadn't thought he was one of the most brilliant financial minds of his generation, hiding in plain sight. The house was empty when she got there. A note on the kitchen table. Took Sadie to her friend's house, back by 6. There's leftover pasta in the fridge. Ava stood in the quiet kitchen and tried to figure out what she was feeling. Betrayed? He'd never lied to her, not directly. Confused? Absolutely. Angry? Maybe. Yeah, a little bit angry. She went upstairs to Noah's office, the room she'd only been in once before. This time, she actually looked around. The desk was neat but well used. There were photos of Sadie at various ages, one of Noah with a beautiful woman who must have been his wife. The bookshelf held an odd mix: mechanical repair manuals, advanced financial texts, a few worn paperbacks. She shouldn't snoop. She knew she shouldn't. She opened the desk drawer anyway. Inside were files. Not many, but enough. She pulled out one labeled Meridian Capital and started reading. 20 minutes later, she understood why Noah had been so stressed. Meridian Capital was attempting a hostile takeover of Brooks Manufacturing, a mid-sized company that made industrial equipment. Noah owned 35% of Brooks through various holding companies. Meridian wanted to acquire it, strip the valuable patents, outsource production overseas, and sell off the real estate. The plan would make Meridian's investors a fortune and put 900 people out of work. Noah had been fighting it for weeks. The sound of the front door opening made her jump. She quickly shoved the file back in the drawer, but she wasn't quick enough. Noah appeared in the doorway, Sadie's hand in his. His eyes went to the desk, to Ava's guilty expression, and something in his face closed off. "Sadie, go wash up for dinner," he said quietly. "But I want to show Ava my... Now please." Sadie, picking up on the tension, scurried off. Noah stepped into the office and closed the door. "Find anything interesting?" "Noah, it's a yes or no question, Ava." "Yes." She stood up, defensive. "I found out that you're not just some mechanic who happens to be good with money. You're Noah Castellano. You ran Whitmore Capital. You were—" "I was a lot of things," Noah interrupted, was being the operative word. "You're still doing it. You're still running funds, still making deals, still trying to keep people employed. Yeah, is that a crime?" "It's a lie." "What did I lie about?" Noah's voice was level, but there was steel underneath. "Did I ever tell you I wasn't good at finance? Did I ever say I didn't have money? Did I ever pretend to be something I'm not? You changed your name 7 years ago after my wife died and my business partners tried to destroy me. Yeah, I changed my name. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to raise my daughter somewhere real, without the vultures and the press and the constant pressure to be the golden boy of Wall Street. You didn't think that was something I should know before we got married?" Noah laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk about things we should have known before we got married? How about the fact that you were planning to divorce me the second the year was up? How about the fact that you saw this as a prison sentence you had to endure for your family?" Ava flinched. "That's not fair." "No? Then what is it?" "Because from where I'm standing, we had an arrangement, a business deal. I held up my end. I saved your company. I gave you a place to stay. I asked for nothing except that you be decent to my daughter. I don't remember promising full disclosure of my entire financial history." "This is different." "Why? Because you found out I'm richer than you thought? Because the mechanic you were slumming it with turns out to have a few more zeros in his bank account? That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about?" Noah stepped closer. "Because I'm trying to figure out why you're mad. I'm the same person I was this morning. I fix cars. I make bad pasta. I care about Sadie and try to do right by the people who depend on me. The only thing that's changed is what you know. So what's really bothering you, Ava?" She opened her mouth to answer and realized she didn't know. He was right. He'd never lied. He'd just never volunteered information she hadn't asked for. But it felt like a betrayal anyway. "I thought we were becoming friends," she said finally. "I thought we were building something real. And now I find out you've been keeping this whole other life secret." "It's not secret. It's private. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah." Noah's voice softened slightly. I learned the hard way that when people know how much money you have, they stop seeing you. They see the money, the opportunity, the angle. I didn't want that with you. I wanted... He stopped. What? I wanted you to see me. Just me. The guy who burns dinner and can't dance and loves his kid. Not Noah Castellano, the financial genius. Not the guy who used to be on the cover of Fortune. Just me. Ava felt something crack in her chest. Noah, I should have told you, he admitted. You're right about that. But I didn't know how. And the longer I waited, the harder it got. They stood there in the small office, the air heavy between them. The file I was reading, Ava said, Meridian Capital, Brooks Manufacturing. What about it? Let me help. Noah blinked. What? You're fighting a hostile takeover. I know corporate warfare. Let me help you. Ava, you don't have to. I want to. Those 900 jobs, they matter. And if I can do something about it, I should. Noah studied her face. This isn't your fight. Maybe not, but I'm making it mine anyway. Something shifted in Noah's expression. Okay, but there's something you need to know first. What? There's a gala tomorrow night, the Riverside Foundation dinner. It's where Meridian's CEO is going to announce the acquisition. He thinks he's already won. So we need to stop him before then. We need to be there, in person, to counter his announcement with our own. Ava saw where this was going. You're going to reveal yourself. I don't have a choice. If I want to fight this publicly, I can't hide anymore. And you need me there. I need my wife there, Noah corrected. The brilliant, ruthless Ava Sterling, who happens to be married to the reclusive Noah Castellano. Together, we're a power couple that Meridian can't ignore. You want to use our marriage as leverage. I want to use everything we've got to save 900 jobs. Yes. Ava thought about it. Going public with their relationship meant scrutiny. Questions. The press would have a field day with the heiress who married a mechanic who turned out to be a billionaire. But it also meant standing beside Noah in a fight that mattered. I'm in, she said. Noah's relief was visible. Thank you. On one condition. Name it. No more secrets. If we're doing this, really doing this, I need to know who I'm standing next to. Noah held out his hand. Deal. She shook it, and the contact sent electricity up her arm. The next 24 hours were chaos. Noah made calls, Ava made calls. They strategized over terrible coffee at the kitchen table while Sadie did homework and asked why everyone seemed so serious. Just work stuff, kiddo, Noah said. Is Ava helping you with work? Yeah, she is, Sadie grinned. That's good. You need help. You're always forgetting to eat lunch when you're working. She's not wrong, Ava said. By the time the gala rolled around, they had a plan. Fragile and dependent on perfect timing, but a plan. Ava wore a dress she'd had shipped from her apartment, black, elegant, expensive enough to remind everyone who she was. Noah wore a tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. You clean up nice, Ava said when he came downstairs. You too. His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. The Riverside Foundation dinner was exactly the kind of event Ava used to attend 3 times a week. Glittering ballroom, champagne towers, people in evening wear talking deals between courses. She knew half the room by name. None of them knew Noah. They walked in together, and Ava felt the room's attention shift toward them. Whispers started immediately. Is that Ava Sterling? Who's she with? Wait, didn't she get married? They made it halfway across the room before someone intercepted them. Gregory Vance, CEO of Meridian Capital, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ava Sterling, what a surprise. Gregory, Ava's voice was cool, I'd like you to meet my husband, Noah Bennett. Gregory's smile faltered slightly as he shook Noah's hand. Bennett, I don't think we've met. We haven't, Noah said. I tend to keep a low profile. What business are you in? Investments, private equity. How nice. Gregory's tone suggested it was anything but. Small portfolio? Focused, Noah corrected. I believe in quality over quantity. The conversation was interrupted by the dinner announcement. They found their seats. Noah had arranged for them to be at a prominent table, visible to most of the room. Halfway through the main course, Gregory stood up to make his announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to share some exciting news. Meridian Capital has reached an agreement to acquire Brooks Manufacturing, a proud American company with a 70-year history. Ava watched Noah's jaw tighten. This acquisition represents our commitment to shareholder value and modernization of American industry. Translation: we're going to gut it and sell the pieces. And we look forward to a bright future for all stakeholders involved. Translation: we don't care what happens to the workers. Gregory sat down to polite applause. Noah caught Ava's eye. Now? She mouthed. He nodded. Noah stood up. The room went quiet. People weren't used to interruptions at these events. If I could have everyone's attention for a moment, Noah said. His voice carried across the room with the confidence of someone who'd done this 100 times before. I'm Noah Bennett, and I need to correct something Mr. Vance just said. Gregory's face went red. I'm sorry, who are you? I'm the majority shareholder of Brooks Manufacturing, and I'm here to tell you that Meridian's acquisition is not happening. The room erupted in whispers. Mr. Bennett, Gregory said tightly, I don't know what you think you're doing, but I'm stopping a predatory acquisition that would destroy 900 jobs while lining your pockets. Noah's voice was steady. Brooks Manufacturing is not for sale. Not to Meridian. Not at any price. You can't block this. We have board approval. You have nothing, Noah interrupted, because you based your entire strategy on the assumption that the majority shareholder was some anonymous fund that wouldn't fight back. Surprise! I'm fighting back. Gregory looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. This is highly irregular. So is trying to raid a company without doing your homework. Noah pulled out his phone and held it up. I've just sent a press release to every major financial outlet. By tomorrow morning, everyone will know that Meridian attempted a hostile takeover based on incomplete information and that Brooks Manufacturing remains independent, with full employment guarantees for all workers. Ava stood up beside him. Sterling Industries stands with Brooks Manufacturing. We'll be partnering on several initiatives going forward, including a joint venture in sustainable manufacturing. Details to follow. She'd made that up on the spot, but it sounded good, and from the look on Noah's face, it was a good play. Gregory sputtered. You can't just... This is business, Gregory, Noah said. Maybe next time do better research. They walked out of the gala together, leaving chaos in their wake. The second they hit the parking lot, Ava started laughing. Did you see his face? I thought he was going to have a stroke, Noah said, grinning. That was incredible. Completely insane, but incredible. They got in Noah's truck. He'd driven it instead of the Mercedes he apparently also owned, and sat there for a moment. Thank you, Noah said quietly, for backing my play. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Ava looked at him. Is this what you used to do before? Sort of. But before it was about the money, about winning. This is different. How? Because it matters. Those 900 people get to keep their jobs. Their kids get to stay in the same schools. Their families stay stable. That's worth more than any return on investment. Ava realized with something like awe that he meant it. This wasn't about ego or empire building. It was about doing right by people who had no idea he existed. You're kind of amazing, she said. Noah looked startled. I'm really not. You are. You rebuilt your entire life around what matters, even when it meant giving up the spotlight. That takes guts. Or stupidity. No, courage. Ava reached over and took his hand. Thank you for trusting me with this. Noah's fingers tightened around hers. Thank you for not running when you found out. Where would I run to? I live in your house. He laughed. Fair point. They drove home in comfortable silence. When they pulled into the driveway, the babysitter's car was still there. They told her they'd be late. Noah paid her, and she left. Sadie was asleep upstairs, one arm around her favorite stuffed elephant. Want a beer? Noah asked. Yeah. They ended up on the porch, like they had so many nights before. But tonight felt different. The secrets were gone. The pretense was stripped away. It was just them. So, Ava said, Noah Castellano. I go by Bennett now. Why Bennett? It was my wife's maiden name, seemed right. Ava processed that. You really loved her, more than I thought was possible. Noah stared out at the quiet street. When she died, I didn't just lose her. I lost the person I was going to be. The future we'd planned. Everything. I'm sorry. Me too. He took a drink, but I got Sadie. And I got a second chance to figure out what kind of man I wanted to be, so I guess it worked out. Is this who you want to be? The mechanic billionaire? I want to be someone Sadie's proud of. Someone who does more good than harm. If that means fixing cars 4 days a week and running a fund the other 3, then yeah, that's who I want to be. Ava thought about her own life. The endless pursuit of more success, more recognition, more proof that she was worthy of the sterling name. I think I've been chasing the wrong things, she admitted. What do you mean? I thought I needed to be perfect, to prove I deserved my family's legacy. But sitting here, drinking cheap beer on a suburban porch, I feel more like myself than I have in years. Noah smiled. Beer's not that cheap. It's imported. She shoved his shoulder. You know what I mean. I do. He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that made her breath catch. For what it's worth, I think you're already more than enough. Legacy or no legacy? The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Ava's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and groaned. What? My mother. She's seen the news. Ava read the text. Noah Castellano? Call me immediately. That's going to be fun to explain. Want me to do it? You'd really call my mother? Sure, I've faced down hostile boards and corporate raiders. How bad can one angry mother-in-law be? Ava laughed. You have no idea. But she didn't call her mother back. Not yet. Instead, she stayed on the porch with Noah, drinking imported beer and watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. Tomorrow, they'd deal with the fallout. Tomorrow, there would be press conferences and interviews and endless questions about the heiress and the hidden billionaire. Tonight, they were just two people who'd fought a battle together and won. Hey, Noah? Yeah? I'm glad you're not just a mechanic. He smiled. I'm glad you're not just an heiress. What are we then? Noah considered the question. Partners, maybe? In this weird, complicated arrangement we've gotten ourselves into. Partners, Ava repeated. I can live with that. They clinked their bottles together, and for the first time since the wedding, Ava felt like they were actually on the same team. The next morning brought exactly the media circus they'd expected. Ava woke to 73 missed calls and an inbox full of interview requests. Noah was already downstairs, fielding calls from reporters and fund managers, and a very confused Marcus from the shop. No, I'm still coming in on Tuesday, Noah was saying. Yeah, the Subaru still needs work. I don't care if it makes the news, Marcus. The rattle isn't going to fix itself. Ava came downstairs to find Sadie eating cereal and reading something on a tablet. Morning, Ava said. Sadie looked up. Did you know Dad's famous? I'm finding that out. There's an article here that says he's a genius. He's okay, Ava said, grinning when Noah shot her a look. It also says you guys are a power couple. What's a power couple? It means people think we're important, Noah said, hanging up the phone, which is mostly nonsense. But you did save a bunch of jobs, right? That seems important. Smart kid, Ava said. I know. Sadie went back to her cereal, completely unfazed by the chaos. Ava's phone rang again. Her father. I need to take this. She stepped outside. Hi, Dad. Ava, are you okay? I'm fine. Noah Castellano, I can't believe he's the one who saved us, back at the beginning. The anonymous investment fund. I figured. Why didn't he tell you? It's complicated. Her father was quiet for a moment. Do you trust him? Did she? A month ago, she would have said she barely knew him. But now, after everything. Yeah, Ava said. I do. Good. Because Sterling Industries just received 3 major contract offers, all from companies in Noah's portfolio. He's not just saving us, Ava. He's setting us up to thrive. He didn't mention that. I don't think he wanted to make it seem like he was buying your affection. Ava looked back through the window at Noah, who was now helping Sadie with something on her tablet while fielding another call. I don't think he needs to buy anything, she said softly. Ava, are you falling for him? I married him, Dad. That's not an answer. I know. She hung up before he could push further because she didn't have an answer, not one she was ready to say out loud. The rest of the day was a blur of crisis management and strategic planning. Noah's PR team, he had a PR team, coordinated responses while Ava handled the Sterling Industries angle. They worked side by side at the kitchen table, laptop to laptop, and it felt right in a way that scared her. That night, after Sadie was in bed, Noah found Ava in the backyard staring up at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. "Just thinking. About how weird my life is now. 3 months ago, I was Ava Sterling, workaholic heiress with a penthouse and a dying company. Now I'm Ava Bennett, married to a billionaire mechanic, living in the suburbs and actually happy." "You're happy?" She turned to look at him. "Yeah, I think I am. Are you?" Noah stepped closer. "Yeah, more than I thought I'd be." The night air was cool, and there was something electric in the space between them. "Noah? Ava?" They both stopped, laughed awkwardly. "You first," Noah said. "This arrangement, our deal. When does it end?" "The contract says a year minimum, but there's no maximum. It ends when we want it to." "And if one of us doesn't want it to end?" Noah's eyes searched her face. "Then we'd have to talk about what that means, about what this is becoming." "What do you think it's becoming?" "Something real," Noah said quietly. "If we let it." Ava's heart was pounding. "That wasn't part of the deal." "No, it wasn't. It complicates everything." "Yeah. We should probably stop before it gets more complicated." "Probably." Neither of them moved. Then Noah's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and swore softly. "What?" "Meridian. They're not done. Gregory just filed an injunction claiming fraud in our Brooks Manufacturing shares." The moment shattered. They were back in business mode, the almost confession hanging unfinished between them. "Can he do that?" Ava asked. "He can try. It won't stick, but it'll tie us up in court for months." "Then we need to hit back harder." Noah looked at her with something like admiration. "You're kind of ruthless when you want to be." "I learned from the best. My father didn't build Sterling Industries by being nice. And here I thought you were just the pretty face of the operation." Ava punched his arm. "Chauvinist. Realist." They went back inside, back to their laptops and their strategy sessions, and the moment in the backyard faded into something they'd deal with later. Except later never came. Because the next day, everything changed again. The attack came from a direction neither of them anticipated. Ava was at Sterling Industries 3 days after the gala, when her assistant burst into her office without knocking. "Ms. Sterling, you need to see this." The tablet showed a breaking news alert. "Financial fraud allegations. Rock Castellano Empire. Former partners claim illegal trading practices." Ava's blood went cold. She scrolled through the article. Thomas Whitmore and David Chen, Noah's former partners at Whitmore Capital, had gone public with accusations. Insider trading, market manipulation, using confidential information to make illegal trades 7 years ago, right before Noah disappeared. "The evidence is substantial," Whitmore was quoted as saying. "We've been working with federal investigators for months. Noah Castellano built his fortune on fraud, and we're prepared to prove it." Ava called Noah. He didn't answer. She called again. Nothing. She grabbed her keys and drove home faster than she should have, her mind racing. This wasn't random. This was timed perfectly to destroy Noah's credibility right when he'd exposed himself publicly. The house was quiet when she got there. Too quiet. She found Noah in his office, staring at his computer screen with an expression she'd never seen before. Defeated. "Noah." He didn't look up. "You saw the news?" "Yeah, tell me it's not true." "It's not true." His voice was hollow. "But I can't prove it." Ava sat down across from him. "Explain." Noah finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes nearly broke her. 7 years ago, Whitmore and Chen came to me with a deal. A sure thing, they said, a company that was about to announce a major merger. If we bought in before the announcement, we'd triple our investment. Insider trading. I told them no. I said if they had inside information, we couldn't touch it. They laughed at me, said everyone did it, that I was being naive. Noah's hands clenched into fists. 2 weeks later, my wife died. I was a mess. I wasn't paying attention to the fund, And they made the trade anyway, using my credentials, my signature, forged, but good enough that no one questioned it. When did you find out? 3 months after Julia's funeral. By then, the SEC was already investigating. Whitmore and Chen had covered their tracks, made it look like I was the one who orchestrated everything. They offered me a deal, disappear quietly, and they'd make the investigation go away. If I fought, they'd make sure I went to prison, and Sadie ended up in foster care. Ava felt sick. So you walked away. Walked? I didn't have a choice. I had a 2-year-old daughter who'd just lost her mother. I couldn't risk losing her too. Noah's voice cracked. So I changed my name, took what money I'd saved separately, and started over. I thought it was over. I thought they'd leave me alone. But you kept investing. You kept building the fund. Under different names, through offshore accounts they couldn't trace. I was careful. I thought I'd buried Noah Castellano deep enough that he'd never come back. Until the gala. Until I stood up in front of 500 people and announced who I was. Noah laughed bitterly. I'm an idiot. I should have known they'd come after me. Ava's mind was already working through the problem. Okay, we need lawyers. The best you can afford. I have lawyers. They're already on it. But Ava, this is different from the Meridian fight. This is the federal government. If they decide to prosecute, there's always something. Ava stood up. Do you have records from back then? Emails, documents, anything that proves you didn't make that trade? They've had 7 years to destroy evidence. That's not what I asked. Noah looked at her for a long moment, then pulled out a laptop from his desk drawer. I kept copies. Everything. Emails showing I opposed the trade, transaction records showing I was at the hospital with Julia when the trade was made, security footage from the building showing I wasn't in the office. Why didn't you use this before? Because Whitmore and Chen are connected. They have friends in the SEC, in the prosecutor's office. If I'd fought back then, they would have buried me. But now, Noah hesitated. Now they're doing this publicly. Now there's media attention. That changes the calculation. Ava felt a surge of something fierce in her chest. Then we fight, publicly. We show everyone exactly what they did. Ava, this isn't your problem. Like hell it isn't. You're my husband. They're attacking you, which means they're attacking me. Sterling Industries just partnered with Brooks Manufacturing, remember? If you go down, we go down. So yeah, this is absolutely my problem. Noah stood up, moving closer to her. This could get ugly. They'll come after you too. Your reputation, your company. I don't care. You should care. Well, I don't. Ava grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me. You saved my family's company when you didn't have to. You gave me a home when I felt like I was drowning. You showed me what actually matters in life. I'm not abandoning you now. Why? Noah's voice was barely a whisper. Why would you risk everything for me? Because I'm falling in love with you, Ava thought. But she wasn't ready to say that out loud. Because it's the right thing to do, she said instead. And because we're partners, remember? Noah pulled her into a hug and Ava felt him shaking. This strong, brilliant man who'd fought hostile takeovers and rebuilt his life from nothing. He was terrified, and he was letting her see it. Thank you, he said into her hair. Don't thank me yet. We haven't won. They pulled apart, and Ava saw something shift in Noah's expression. The defeat was gone, replaced by determination. Okay, he said. Let's do this. But we do it smart. They spent the next 6 hours going through every piece of evidence Noah had saved. Emails, transaction records, security footage, witness statements from people who'd been at the hospital with him the day of the trade. It was overwhelming and meticulous, and exactly the kind of work Ava had been trained for. Around midnight, Noah's phone rang. His lawyer. We have a problem, the lawyer said, and Noah put him on speaker. Whitmore and Chen just filed a civil lawsuit. They're claiming you defrauded them of $3 billion and demanding restitution. $3 billion? Ava said. That's insane. It's strategic, the lawyer replied. They're trying to freeze Noah's assets while the criminal investigation proceeds. If they succeed, he won't be able to fund his defense or maintain his current holdings. Can they do that? Ava asked. With the right judge and the right timing? Maybe. We've got 48 hours before the emergency hearing. After the lawyer hung up, Noah sat down heavily. This is worse than I thought. Then we need to move faster. Ava pulled out her phone. I'm calling my father. Sterling Industries has relationships with half the law firms in the city. We'll find someone who can help. Ava, don't argue. We don't have time. Her father answered on the second ring. Ava, it's almost 1 in the morning. I need help. Noah's being attacked by his former partners. They're trying to freeze his assets and destroy him. There was a pause. Tell me everything. Ava explained the situation while her father listened. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. This is serious, Ava. If the government decides to prosecute, Dad, please, he didn't do it. I've seen the evidence. He's innocent. You're sure? Ava looked at Noah, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I'm sure. Then I'll make some calls. I know a prosecutor at the DOJ used to work with him on a regulatory thing years ago. No promises, but I'll see what I can find out. Thank you. Ava, be careful. These kinds of fights can get dirty. I know. After she hung up, Noah said quietly, You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? Because someone needs to have your back. And apparently, that's my job now. Noah smiled, small and sad. When did that happen? I don't know. Sometime between the terrible mac and cheese and you fixing my shoes. Ava sat down beside him. We should try to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be bad. I can't sleep. Me neither. They ended up on the couch, sitting close, not quite touching. The house was quiet, except for the clock ticking in the kitchen. Can I tell you something? Noah said. Yeah. When Julia died, I thought that was it. I thought I'd used up my chance at having something real with someone. I'd focus on Sadie, do my work, and that would be enough. And now? Now I'm sitting here with someone who barely knows me, who has every reason to walk away, and she's instead planning legal strategy at 1 in the morning. Noah turned to look at her. That's not nothing. No, Ava agreed. It's not. Their eyes met, and for a moment Ava thought he might kiss her, but instead he just reached over and took her hand. They fell asleep like that, on the couch, hands linked, and when Sadie found them in the morning, she just smiled and quietly got herself cereal. The next 48 hours were a controlled explosion of activity. Noah's legal team coordinated with Sterling's lawyers. Ava's father made his calls and came back with cautiously good news. The DOJ prosecutor was willing to review Noah's evidence before making a decision about criminal charges. Meanwhile, Ava did what she did best. She went to war in the court of public opinion. She called every contact she had in the media. She gave interviews explaining Noah's side of the story. She positioned it not as a he said, she said between former partners, but as a grieving widower who'd been framed by greedy men who couldn't stand that he'd had principles. Noah Castellano refused to break the law, she told a reporter from the Financial Times. His partners punished him for it by destroying his reputation. Now they're trying to finish the job. The story started to shift. Business outlets began digging into Whitmore and Chen's history. Turned out they'd been involved in several questionable deals over the years. Nothing proven, but enough smoke to make people wonder. On the morning of the emergency hearing, Ava dressed in her sharpest suit and met Noah at the courthouse. He looked exhausted but determined. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. The hearing was brutal. Whitmore and Chen's lawyers painted Noah as a criminal mastermind who'd fooled everyone. Noah's lawyers countered with evidence and timelines. The judge listened, stony-faced. Finally, he made his ruling. I'm denying the motion to freeze assets. The plaintiff's case is based on allegations that have not been proven, and freezing Mr. Bennett's assets at this stage would cause irreparable harm. However, I'm ordering both parties to preserve all documents related to the original transaction. We'll reconvene in 30 days. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Noah's assets were safe for now. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Ava had prepared for this. Mr. Bennett has always maintained his innocence, she said into the cameras. The evidence will show that he was framed by partners who couldn't accept that he refused to break the law. We look forward to proving the truth in court. Ms. Sterling, why are you standing by your husband? Because he's innocent, and because that's what you do when you're married. You stand together. The cameras loved it. The heiress defending her secretly brilliant husband against false accusations. It was the kind of story that wrote itself. Back at the house, Noah collapsed on the couch. Sadie climbed up next to him. Did you win, Dad? Sort of, kiddo. It's complicated. Mrs. Patterson says complicated just means you need to think about it harder. Noah laughed. Mrs. Patterson is very wise. Ava watched them from the doorway, and something in her chest expanded. This was her family now. Messy and complicated and under attack, but hers. Her phone buzzed. Her father. The DOJ prosecutor reviewed Noah's evidence, he said without preamble. He's declining to pursue criminal charges, says it's clear Noah wasn't involved in the illegal trade. Ava nearly dropped the phone. Are you serious? Dead serious. He's making the announcement tomorrow. It won't stop the civil suit, but it takes the criminal threat off the table. Dad, I could kiss you. Please don't. Just take care of yourself and take care of him. He's one of the good ones, Ava. I know. She hung up and walked into the living room. Noah, the DOJ declined to prosecute. Noah's head snapped up. What? They reviewed your evidence. They're not pursuing charges. For a moment, Noah just stared at her. Then he stood up, picked up Sadie, spun her around, and let out a whoop that probably woke the neighbors. We won? Sadie asked, giggling. We didn't lose, Noah corrected, which is almost the same thing. He set Sadie down and crossed to Ava, pulling her into a hug that lifted her off her feet. Thank you, he said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't do anything. You had the evidence. You made people listen. You made them care. That's everything. When he set her down, they were standing very close. Sadie had wandered off to play, leaving them alone. Noah, Ava, they both stopped, laughed. You first, Noah said. This thing between us. It's not fake anymore, is it? No. Noah's voice was quiet. It hasn't been fake for a while. So what is it? I don't know. But I know I want to find out. Ava felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff. She could step back, keep things safe and simple. Or she could jump. She jumped. I want that too. Noah's smile was slow and genuine and made her heart skip. Yeah? Yeah. He cupped her face in his hands, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deeper, more certain. Ava felt like something inside her was clicking into place, like she'd been waiting for this without knowing it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Noah rested his forehead against hers. We should probably talk about this, he said. Probably. Figure out what it means. Definitely. Neither of them moved. You guys are kissing, Sadie's voice came from the doorway. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. We were just... Ava started. It's totally fine, Sadie said, grinning. Emma's dad has a girlfriend and they kiss all the time. Does this mean Ava's staying forever? Ava and Noah looked at each other. We're still figuring that out, kiddo, Noah said. Okay. Can we have pizza for dinner? Sure. Sadie skipped off, already over it. Ava laughed shakily. Well, that was subtle. About as subtle as a brick. Noah was still looking at her like he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. We should talk. Really talk. After pizza? After pizza. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Sadie told them about a boy at school who ate paste. Noah told a story about a customer who thought their car was haunted, and Ava realized she was laughing more than she had in months. This was happiness. Not the glossy Instagram perfect version. The real kind, with pizza grease and a 7-year-old's endless chatter and a man across the table who looked at her like she was the best thing that had happened to him in years. After Sadie went to bed, a process that took 40 minutes and involved 3 glasses of water, 2 stories, and 1 emergency trip to the bathroom, Ava and Noah finally sat down on the porch. So, Noah said. So, that kiss? Was pretty good, Ava admitted. Just pretty good? She shoved his shoulder. Okay, it was really good. Happy? Getting there. Noah took a breath. Ava, I need you to know something. When I agreed to this marriage, I thought it would be simple. A business arrangement. But you're not simple. Is that a compliment? It's the truth. You're brilliant and stubborn, and you care so much about doing the right thing, even when it costs you. You've stood by me through things you had no obligation to stand by me through. And somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking of this as an arrangement and started thinking of it as us. Ava's throat felt tight. I feel the same way. I came here thinking I was giving up my life, but I found one instead, a better one. So what do we do about it? I don't know. The contract says we stay married for a year. We're at about 4 months now. Screw the contract, Noah said. What do you want? What did she want? A month ago, she would have said freedom, the chance to reclaim her old life. Now, looking at Noah in the porch light, she knew the answer was different. I want this. Us, whatever this is. Even though it's messy and complicated? Especially because it's messy and complicated. Perfect is boring. Noah laughed. You're really committing to the mechanic with the kid and the legal problems? You're really committing to the workaholic heiress with the overbearing mother and the failing company? When you put it that way, we're quite a pair. Yeah, we are. Noah leaned over and kissed her again, slower this time. When they broke apart, he said, I should warn you, if we do this for real, I'm not easy to live with. I work too much. I'm terrible at cooking anything that's not breakfast food. I have a kid who will always come first. And I'm controlling and obsessive about work, and I have no idea how to be someone's wife for real. Sounds perfect. Sounds like a disaster. Maybe both. Ava thought about it, about the risks, about what she was agreeing to. Then she thought about Noah teaching Sadie fractions at the kitchen table, about him fixing her shoes without being asked, about the way he'd looked at her in the courthouse, like she was the only thing keeping him standing. I'm in, she said. For real this time. Not because of a contract or an arrangement, because I choose this. I choose you. Noah's smile could have lit up the whole street. I choose you too. They sat there on the porch, hands linked, and Ava felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Certainty. The sense that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The civil lawsuit with Whitmore and Chen would continue. Sterling Industries still needed work. Their families would have opinions and the media would have questions. But they'd face all of it together, not as strangers bound by obligation, but as partners who'd chosen each other. And that made all the difference. The next morning, Ava woke up to find Noah already in the kitchen, burning eggs. I thought you said you could cook eggs, she said, kissing his cheek as she passed. I said I could cook scrambled eggs. These are supposed to be over easy. They're very crispy. They're terrible. Noah scraped them into the trash. Want cereal? Cereal sounds perfect. Sadie came downstairs, took one look at them, and said, You guys are being weird. What do you mean? Ava asked. You're all smiley. It's suspicious. Noah and Ava exchanged a look. Sadie, Noah said carefully, how would you feel if Ava stayed, like, really stayed? Not just for the contract, but because she wants to be here. Sadie considered this. Would she still help me with homework? If she wants to, Noah said. Would she come to my school stuff? Probably. Would she keep making Dad less sad? The question hit Ava right in the chest. I'll try. Sadie nodded, satisfied. Okay. She can stay. Just like that, Noah said. Dad, I'm 7, not stupid. I knew you guys liked each other like a month ago. Emma said you were doing longing looks at the father-daughter dance. Longing looks? Ava tried not to laugh. Emma watches a lot of Disney movies, Noah muttered. They ate cereal and planned their day, and were generally disgustingly domestic, and Ava loved every second of it. Later, when she went to Sterling Industries, she noticed the difference in how people looked at her. Word had spread about her defending Noah in court, about the partnership between Sterling and Brooks Manufacturing, about the fact that she'd chosen to stand by her husband when she could have walked away. Her father pulled her aside. The board wants to promote you to COO. What about you? I'll stay on as CEO for another year, then transition to chairman. It's time, Ava. You've proven you can handle it. Because I got married? Because you showed leadership when it mattered. Because you made the hard calls and stood by your principles. The marriage just made it obvious what I should have seen years ago. You're ready. Ava felt tears prick her eyes. Thanks, Dad. Thank Noah, too. He's good for you. I wasn't sure about this arrangement at first, but I was wrong. He's exactly what you needed. What we both needed, Ava corrected. That evening, she came home to find Noah in the garage, actually working on a car. She leaned against the doorframe and watched him for a moment. How's the Mustang coming? She asked. Good. Should be done by Friday. Noah wiped his hands on a rag. How was your day? I got promoted to COO. Noah's face lit up. Ava, that's amazing. It's terrifying, but also amazing. He crossed to her, pulling her close despite the grease on his hands. You're going to be incredible. We'll see. I already know. They stood there in the garage, surrounded by tools and motor oil and the ordinary chaos of real life, and Ava thought about how far she'd come. 4 months ago, she'd signed a marriage certificate with a stranger, thinking her life was over. Now, she was standing in that stranger's arms, knowing her life was just beginning. The civil lawsuit dragged on for 3 more months, but Ava had stopped counting days. That was the first sign that something fundamental had shifted. She no longer thought in terms of timelines and exit strategies. She thought in terms of Sadie's soccer schedule and Noah's shop hours, and when they'd need to repaint the guest room. The second sign came on a Tuesday morning when she realized she'd stopped calling her penthouse apartment home. She'd been there twice in the past month, both times just to grab clothes and mail. The place felt like a museum now, beautiful and cold, and belonging to someone else entirely. You should just sell it, Noah said when she mentioned it. They were having coffee on the porch, their morning routine. Or rent it out? I keep thinking I might need it. Why would you need it? Ava didn't have an answer for that. Or rather, she had one she wasn't ready to say out loud. She was keeping it as a safety net, a backup plan for if this all fell apart. Noah saw right through her. He always did. You don't trust this yet, he said quietly. Us. I do. But you're still keeping one foot out the door. Ava wanted to argue, but he was right. She'd committed to the relationship, to being a real partner, but some part of her was still waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for Noah to realize she wasn't worth the trouble, or for her to wake up one day and remember she was supposed to want her old life back. I'm trying, she said. I know. Noah took her hand. But Ava, at some point you have to actually jump, not just say you're jumping while keeping a safety harness attached. That's a terrible metaphor. You know what I mean. She did, and it terrified her. The lawsuit finally settled in early September. Whitmore and Chen dropped their case after a judge ruled that most of their evidence was inadmissible and their timeline didn't hold up to scrutiny. They released a statement claiming they'd achieved their objectives and were moving forward, which was corporate speak for we lost and we're pretending we didn't. Noah took Ava and Sadie out for celebratory ice cream. Does this mean the bad guys lost? Sadie asked, attacking her strawberry cone. Yeah, kiddo, the bad guys lost. Good. They seem mean. They were mean, Ava agreed. But your dad beat them anyway. We beat them, Noah corrected. Couldn't have done it without you. Sadie made a gagging noise. You guys are doing the mushy thing again. Get used to it, Noah said, grinning. That night, after Sadie was asleep, Ava found herself in Noah's office, looking at the photos on his shelf. The one of him with his late wife still sat there, and Ava had stopped feeling weird about it. Julia was part of Noah's story, part of what made him who he was. Ava wasn't trying to replace her. She was just trying to write the next chapter. She would have liked you, Noah said from the doorway. Ava turned. You think? Yeah. She had this thing about authenticity. She could spot fake people a mile away. But you're real, even when you're trying not to be. I don't know if that's a compliment. It is. Noah came to stand beside her. Julia used to say that the best thing you could be was honest, with yourself and everyone else. She'd respect that you came here kicking and screaming, but stayed because you chose to. I miss her, Ava said, then immediately felt stupid. Sorry, that's weird. I never met her. It's not weird. I miss her too. But I'm also really happy with you. Both things can be true. Ava leaned into him. How'd you get so good at this? At what? At being an actual person. At knowing what matters. Noah laughed softly. I'm not that good at it. I still work too much. I still forget to eat lunch. I'm still figuring it out. But you have your priorities straight. Only because I lost someone and it rearranged everything in my head. I wouldn't recommend it as a learning method. They stood there in comfortable silence, and Ava thought about priorities. About what mattered. About the fact that she'd spent 30 years chasing the wrong things, and it had taken a forced marriage to a stranger to figure out what she actually wanted. The next morning, she called a real estate agent and listed the penthouse. Noah found her on this porch that evening, staring at the listing on her phone. You sure about this? He asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's progress. It's terrifying. Also progress. Noah sat beside her. Can I ask you something? Always. What are we doing here, like long term? Because I know we started as an arrangement, and then we became real, but I don't actually know what the plan is. Ava's heart started pounding. What do you want the plan to be? I want you to stay. Not as part of a deal, not because of the company, not for any reason except you want to be here. I want to figure out how to be a real family, you, me, and Sadie. I want to stop thinking of this as temporary. What if I mess it up? You will mess it up. I'll mess it up too. That's how this works. Comforting. I'm serious, Ava. We're going to fight. We're going to have bad days. Sadie's going to hit her teenage years and hate both of us. I'm going to work late and forget anniversaries. You're going to get obsessed with some work project and neglect everything else. That's real life. That's what we're signing up for. You make it sound terrible. It's also going to be great. There'll be good days that outnumber the bad ones. Sadie's going to do amazing things, and we'll get to watch. We'll figure out how to actually cook something besides breakfast food. We'll grow old and argue about stupid things and be happy. Ava felt tears on her cheeks. When did you become a romantic? I'm not romantic. I'm realistic. But realism with the right person looks a lot like romance. She kissed him, tasting salt from her own tears. When they broke apart, she said, I want to stay. For real. No safety nets, no backup plans, just this. Noah's smile was bright enough to light up the whole street. Yeah? Yeah. Even though we're a mess? Especially because we're a mess. They told Sadie the next morning over pancakes that Noah had only slightly burned. So Ava's staying forever? Sadie asked. If she wants to, Noah said. Sadie turned to Ava. Do you want to? I do? Okay. Can I have your room then? Mine's smaller. Noah laughed. Nice try, kiddo. Ava's room is staying Ava's room. Worth a shot. Sadie went back to her pancakes, then looked up again. Does this mean I can call you Mom? The question stopped everything. Ava's throat closed up. You don't have to, Noah said quickly. Ava's Ava, that's fine. But Sadie was looking at Ava, waiting for an answer. You can call me whatever feels right, Ava managed. If that's Mom, okay. If it's Ava, that's okay too. What if I use both, like mostly Ava, but sometimes Mom when it feels right? That sounds perfect. Sadie nodded, satisfied, and went back to breakfast like she hadn't just completely destroyed Ava emotionally. Noah reached under the table and squeezed Ava's hand. Sterling Industries continued to stabilize and then thrive. Ava stepped into the COO role and discovered she was actually good at it, better than she'd been as just another executive. The partnership with Brooks Manufacturing opened doors to other collaborations. Within 6 months, Sterling had regained everything it lost and then some. Her father pulled her aside one day and said, You did it. You saved the company. We did it, Ava corrected. You, me, Noah. Mostly you. I was just trying not to sink the ship. You actually steered it somewhere. I learned from you. Her father smiled. No, you didn't. You learned from failing and getting back up. That's all you, kid. Ava thought about that. About the fact that she'd spent so long trying to be what everyone expected, the perfect daughter, the perfect executive, the perfect Sterling, and it had taken losing control to find out who she actually was. She was someone who fixed things, who fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves, who showed up even when it was hard. She was also someone who loved a mechanic and his kid and a small house that needed too many repairs. Both things were true. Noah's garage was doing better too, in its own way. He'd hired another mechanic, a young woman named Lisa, who was brilliant with electrical systems. Marcus had gotten engaged. Dave had started a YouTube channel about classic car restoration that somehow had 50,000 subscribers. You're a small business success story, Ava teased Noah. I'm a guy who likes fixing cars and happened to hire good people. Same thing. Noah was still running his investment fund, but more selectively now. He'd turned down 3 deals in the past month because they didn't meet his criteria of actually helping people. Ava watched him work and marveled at how someone could have billions of dollars and still choose to spend Tuesday afternoons replacing brake pads. Don't you get bored? She asked him once. Of what? This, the small-scale stuff. You could be running a major corporation. You could be on magazine covers. I was on magazine covers. It was exhausting and pointless. Noah tightened a bolt. This matters more. The guy who owns this car? He's a teacher. Makes $38,000 a year. Can't afford a new car, can barely afford to fix this one. If I charge him half what a dealership would charge and do good work, he gets to keep teaching kids and not worry about how he's getting to work. That's worth more than any magazine cover. You're annoyingly principled. I know. It's a character flaw. Ava thought about her own work, about the decisions she made every day about budgets and staffing and strategy. She'd started asking herself Noah's question, does this help people or does it just make money? Sometimes the answer was both, sometimes it was neither, but asking the question changed how she approached everything. The anniversary of their wedding arrived on a random Thursday in October. Ava woke up and realized the date and felt something complicated twist in her chest. 1 year ago, she'd sat in a government office and signed her name next to a stranger's, thinking her life was ending. Now that stranger was asleep beside her, one arm thrown over her waist, and her life felt more real than it ever had. Morning, Noah mumbled, eyes still closed. It's our anniversary. Should I have gotten you something? Probably. I didn't get you anything either. We're terrible at this. The worst. Noah opened one eye. Want to celebrate anyway? How? I don't know. Normal people probably do fancy dinners. We're not normal people. True. Want to get tacos and watch Sadie's soccer game? That sounds perfect. They did exactly that. Sadie's team lost 3-1, but she scored their only goal and was thrilled. They got tacos from the truck near the field. They went home and watched a movie that Sadie picked, something animated with talking animals. It was completely ordinary. It was the best anniversary Ava could imagine. Later, after Sadie was in bed, they sat on the porch with beers and wind chimes and the quiet street. 1 year, Noah said. Feels like longer. Yeah. In a good way? In a good way. Ava leaned her head on his shoulder. I was so angry when this started. At my father, at you, at the whole situation. I know, you had a very particular expression whenever you looked at me. What expression? Like you were trying to figure out where to hide my body. Ava laughed. That's fair. You were annoyingly calm about everything. I was freaking out internally, but someone had to pretend they knew what was happening. Did you ever think we'd actually make it work? Noah was quiet for a moment. Honestly? No. I thought you'd last maybe 3 months, then find a way out of the contract. I didn't think you'd stay. What changed? You did. Or maybe you just let me see who you actually were under all the armor. And you still wanted me around? Even more. Noah kissed the top of her head. You're my favorite disaster. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm working on it. Give me another year. The penthouse sold 2 weeks later for more than asking price. Ava used the money to set up a scholarship fund for children of Sterling Industries employees. It felt right, taking something from her old life and turning it into something that mattered. Kira visited again in November, this time with less horror and more acceptance. Okay, I get it now, she said, watching Noah help Sadie with a science project at the kitchen table. Get what? Why you stayed. He's good people. Yeah, he is. And you're happy, like actually happy. Not, I'm successful, so I must be happy. Happy. Ava thought about it. Yeah, I am. Good, you deserve it. Kira paused. Though I still think this couch is hideous. It's comfortable. It's also hideous. Some things never changed. Thanksgiving came, and with it, the inevitable family gathering. Ava's mother had been slowly coming around, slowly being the operative word, and had agreed to have dinner at the bungalow instead of insisting everyone come to her estate. This is a very small dining room, Linda Sterling said, surveying the space. It fits everyone, Ava said firmly. Barely, but dinner was actually nice. Sadie charmed everyone by explaining her rock collection in exhaustive detail. Noah managed to cook a turkey that was only slightly dry. Ava's father and Noah talked about investment strategies and discovered they had similar philosophies. Linda pulled Ava aside while everyone else was arguing about pie. You're really staying, she said. Not a question. I really am. In this tiny house. It's not tiny, it's cozy. With a mechanic. With a brilliant man who happens to fix cars for fun. Linda sighed. I wanted so much more for you. This is more, Mom. It's just different than what you pictured. Her mother looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "You look happy, really happy. I haven't seen that in years." "I am happy." "Then I suppose I can live with the tiny house and the mechanic." Linda actually smiled. "Though I still think you should redecorate. I'll take it under advisement." Winter settled in. The house needed new insulation, something Noah had been putting off. So they had it done. Sadie turned 8. Sterling Industries announced record profits. Noah's fund made Forbes' list of most impactful private equity firms, though Noah refused to do any press about it. "I'm not interested in being famous," he told the PR person who kept calling. "I'm interested in doing good work. There's a difference." Ava watched him hang up the phone and felt a surge of affection so strong it almost hurt. "What?" Noah asked, noticing her expression. "Nothing, just, I love you." They'd said it before, tentatively at first, then more easily, but this time felt different, more certain. "I love you too," Noah said, "even though you're absolutely going to redecorate because your mother won't stop bugging you about it." "How do you know that?" "Because I know you, and I know your mother. And I know that somewhere in your head, you're already planning paint colors." He was right. Ava had been looking at paint swatches on her phone for 3 days. "We don't have to change anything," she said. "This is your house. It's our house. And if you want to paint it or get new furniture or knock down a wall, we'll figure it out together." "You sure?" "Ava, you moved into my life and made it better. Paint the walls purple for all I care." "Purple's a little much, but you're thinking about it." She laughed. "Maybe." They did end up redecorating, but slowly, over months. New couch, fresh paint in the living room, updated kitchen cabinets. Each change felt like they were making the space theirs instead of just Noah's. Sadie got to pick the color for her room and chose something called electric lime that hurt to look at, but she loved it. "This is the best room ever," she declared. "It's very green," Ava said. "I know! Emma's going to be so jealous." Spring came around again, and with it, a problem Ava hadn't anticipated. Sadie's school had a mother-daughter event. "I don't have to go," Sadie said when she brought home the flyer. "It's stupid anyway." But Ava could see the longing in her eyes. "Do you want me to come?" Ava asked carefully. I could be your person, if you want." Sadie bit her lip. "Would that be weird, since you're not really my mom?" "I'm not your mom," Ava agreed, "but I love you like one. If that counts for anything." "It counts." Sadie's face brightened. "Yeah, I want you to come." The event was at a pottery place making bowls and mugs. Ava had never done pottery in her life. She was terrible at it. Her bowl looked like a drunk amoeba. Sadie thought it was hilarious. "You're really bad at this," she said, giggling. "I'm aware. But you're trying. That's what counts." Ava looked at this kid, this brilliant, funny, kind kid who'd somehow become hers, and felt her chest get tight. "Sadie?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for letting me be your person." Sadie leaned against her, getting clay on both of them. "Thanks for being good at it." On the drive home, Sadie said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Are you and Dad going to have a baby?" Ava nearly drove off the road. "What?" "Emma says when grown-ups get married, they have babies. Are you going to?" We haven't really talked about it." "But would you want to?" Would she? Ava had never really thought about kids. Her life had been her career, her company, her endless pursuit of more. But now, looking at Sadie, thinking about what it would be like to do this from the beginning. "Maybe," Ava said honestly. "Would that be okay with you?" Sadie considered it. "Would the baby be annoying?" "Probably. Babies usually are. But then they get older and better?" "That's the theory." "Okay. I guess that would be fine, as long as I'm still the oldest and get to be in charge sometimes." Ava laughed. "Deal." She didn't bring it up to Noah right away, but the question sat in her head, taking up space. A month later, she brought it up on the porch. Their spot. "Sadie asked me if we're having a baby," she said without preamble. Noah choked on his beer. "She what?" "Apparently Emma told her that's what married people do. Emma needs to mind her business." "So that's a no?" Noah set down his beer and looked at her. Really looked. "Is it something you want?" "I don't know. Maybe. I never thought about kids before. My life was always too busy, too focused on other things. But now, Now? Now I have this life that has room in it, room for more than just work and ambition. And I keep thinking about what it would be like. Noah was quiet for a long time. Julia and I wanted more kids. We were going to try for another one, but then she got sick and he trailed off. I always thought Sadie would be it, that I'd had my chance at that part of life. And now? Now I'm sitting here with someone I love, who loves my daughter, who's asking if I want to do the baby thing again. Noah ran a hand through his hair. Yeah, I think I do. If you do. I'm terrified. Me too. I'd probably be terrible at it. You'd probably be great at it. Ava thought about it, about diapers and sleepless nights and all the chaos a baby would bring to their already chaotic life. Then she thought about Sadie teaching a little sibling about rocks, about Noah being a dad to a tiny human from day one, about the family they'd accidentally built getting a little bigger. Let's do it, she said. Let's be terrified together. Noah kissed her, deep and certain and full of promise. It took longer than they expected. Ava was 31, which was still young, but apparently not as young as she'd thought. They tried for 6 months with nothing happening. Maybe it's not meant to be, Ava said after another negative test. Or maybe it just takes time, Noah countered. 3 months later, on a random Tuesday, Ava took a test that came back positive. She sat on the bathroom floor staring at the 2 lines and cried. When Noah came home from the shop, she just handed him the test. His face went through about 17 emotions in 3 seconds. Is this, we're having a baby. He picked her up and spun her around, laughing and maybe crying a little too. Sadie, watching from the doorway, said, I knew it! Emma owes me $5. You bet on this? Ava said. She said it wouldn't happen before summer. I said it would. Pay up, Emma. Sadie yelled this last part at no one. The pregnancy was hard. Ava threw up constantly for the first 4 months. She had to cut back her hours at Sterling Industries, which drove her crazy. Her mother drove her even crazier with constant advice about pregnancy and childbirth and child-rearing that Ava didn't ask for. But Noah was there for all of it. He held her hair back when she was sick. He took over more of the cooking, which meant they ate a lot of scrambled eggs. He rubbed her feet when they swelled and didn't complain when she cried at television commercials. Sadie was excited and terrified in equal measure. She read pregnancy books and asked uncomfortable questions and started planning what she was going to teach the baby. First rocks, she told Ava seriously. Then math. Then maybe soccer if the baby likes it. Sounds like a plan. Sterling Industries continued without her, which was both reassuring and slightly annoying. Her father stepped up, her team handled things, and the world kept turning even though Ava wasn't micromanaging every detail. Turns out I'm not actually essential, she told Noah. You're essential to us, he said. That's different. The baby came in March, a week early, after 18 hours of labor that Ava would describe as medieval torture for the rest of her life. But then they put the baby in her arms, a girl, tiny and red-faced and absolutely perfect. And Ava understood why people did this. She's beautiful, Noah said, his voice thick. She looks like an angry raisin. The most beautiful angry raisin I've ever seen. Sadie came to the hospital and held her new sister with careful reverence. Her name's Lily, Ava said. They'd picked it together, all 3 of them. Hi, Lily, Sadie whispered. I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you about rocks. Those first few months were chaos. Ava had thought she understood tired before. She'd pulled all-nighters for work, survived on 3 hours of sleep during crises. But newborn tired was a different animal entirely. Noah handled it better than she did. He'd done this before, knew the rhythms, could function on even less sleep than Ava. How are you not dead? She asked him at 3 a.m. when Lily was screaming for the 4th time that night. Practice. Also, I'm dead. I'm just really good at faking being alive. That's not reassuring. But they figured it out. They took shifts. They asked for help when they needed it. They lowered their standards for what constituted a clean house or a good meal. Sterling Industries gave Ava 6 months of maternity leave, which she actually took. Her father sent her emails sometimes with updates, but mostly he just sent pictures of himself in her office with the caption, "Living my best COO life." Your dad's funny, Noah said. My dad's having a midlife crisis and using my job to fuel it. That too. When Ava went back to work part-time, it was strange. She'd spent her whole life being defined by her career, and now it was just one part of her life. An important part, but not everything. She had other things that mattered more. A husband who made terrible lasagna but great scrambled eggs. A stepdaughter who was teaching her baby sister about sedimentary rock formations. A daughter who had Noah's eyes and Ava's stubborn chin. She had a life she'd chosen instead of one that had chosen her. The house was too small now, that was obvious. With 4 people and all of Sadie's stuff and all of Lily's stuff, they were bursting at the seams. "We should move," Noah said one evening, looking around the living room, which was covered in toys. "Where would we go?" "I don't know, somewhere bigger. Maybe one of those new developments on the east side." But Ava found she didn't want to leave. This house, with its crooked mailbox and squeaky floors and wind chimes on the porch. This was where she'd figured out who she actually was. Where she'd fallen in love. Where she'd become a mother. "What if we just add on?" she said. "Extend the back, add a second floor, keep the house but make it bigger." Noah looked thoughtful. "That could work. It'll be expensive and annoying, and we'll have to live through construction. So like everything else we do." Exactly. They started planning the renovation. Sadie gave input on her new, bigger room. They designed a nursery for Lily that wasn't just the guest room with a crib shoved in it. They added a proper office for Noah instead of the cramped space off the kitchen. The construction was, as predicted, expensive and annoying. They lived with half the house wrapped in plastic for 3 months. But when it was done, the house was theirs in a new way. Not Noah's house that Ava moved into. Their house. The one they'd built together. Lily turned 1. Sadie turned 10. Sterling Industries promoted Ava to CEO when her father finally retired. Noah sold 2 of his portfolio companies for ridiculous amounts of money and donated half the proceeds to education charities. Life happened. Not the glossy, perfect version, the real kind, with fights about whose turn it was to do dishes and sleepless nights when Lily was teething and mornings when the coffee pot broke and they all showed up late to everything. But also with Sadie's first soccer goal and Lily's first word, which was no, appropriately, and quiet moments on the porch when the kids were asleep and everything felt right. 2 years after Lily was born, on another random Thursday, Ava found herself on that same porch with Noah. "Remember when we met?" she said. "You mean when you looked at me like I was something you'd scraped off your shoe?" "I did not." "You absolutely did. You were so angry. I was terrified. I thought my life was ending." "And now?" Ava looked through the window at their house. Sadie was doing homework at the kitchen table. Lily was building a truly chaotic block tower. Inside was warmth and noise and the life they'd built. "Now I know it was just beginning," she said. Noah kissed her temple. "Best arranged marriage ever?" "Only arranged marriage I plan to have." "That's probably wise." They sat in comfortable silence and Ava thought about the journey, about how she'd come here kicking and screaming, convinced she was sacrificing herself for her family's company, about how she'd discovered that what she thought was a sacrifice was actually a gift. She'd learned that home wasn't a place or a price tag. It was people, the ones who saw you at your worst and stuck around anyway. The ones who made terrible food and fixed your shoes and taught you that success wasn't the same as happiness. She'd learned that love didn't always look like the movies. Sometimes it looked like oil-stained coveralls and a 7-year-old mediator and a house that started too small and ended up just right. Most importantly, she'd learned that the best things in life were the ones you chose, not the ones you were given. She'd chosen Noah. He'd chosen her. They'd chosen this life, this family, this messy, imperfect, absolutely perfect existence. And that choice, made freely and renewed every single day, made all the difference. "Hey, Noah?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad I married you, even though it was forced. Especially because it was forced. If it hadn't been, I might never have taken the chance." Noah pulled her closer. "Well then, here's to forced marriages and happy accidents, and to terrible lasagna. I've been working on that recipe. It's getting better. You put raisins in it last week." "That was one time," Sadie called from inside that Lily had knocked over her blocks again and was crying. Noah went to deal with it, and Ava stayed on the porch for one more moment. The wind chimes sang their quiet song. The street was peaceful. Lights glowed in houses up and down the block, other families living their own messy, beautiful lives. Ava thought about the woman who'd signed that marriage certificate 3 years ago, how lost she'd been, how convinced she knew what her life should look like. She'd been so wrong, and she'd never been more grateful to be wrong in her entire life. She went inside to her husband and daughters and the chaos they called home and closed the door on the past. This was her life now, the one she'd chosen, the one that had chosen her back. And it was more than enough. It was everything.